Hello, my name is Santana Huang, and this is going to be the first video in a playlist that I'm making for engineering, graphic, and design. Now, I have seen a lot of videos. I've seen a lot of videos online about like how to do engineering drawings and do how to do a bunch of stuff with respect to engineering and design. But I have not seen a dedicated playlist other than the one show, other than a published one in taught by the university in India. So I just want to make this playlist so that people can understand this much more easier, and hopefully I can simplify it enough so that y'all can understand and succeed in this course. Now, the way I was taught in this course was through UCR, through Mechanical Engineering 009. So your course may be different, but this is how I was taught. And if there's any extras that you have been taught in your course, um, hopefully that this can give a more general idea of how this course is taught, and hopefully that I will be able to explain it to you. So for basic introductions, I would just like to go through why are people being taught this course, how you will go through this course, and what will we do in this course. So I like to simplify everything to a why, how, and what, and we'll get to that right now. So, why are we learning engineering, graphics, and design? Why? Well, whenever you're doing engineering, right? Aerospace, civil, biomechanical, biomedical, everything, right? You're always uh, engineering is always a problem-solving career. You're trying to stretch your brain out so you can be as creative as you can be, and just being able to put those ideas onto paper. Okay, so we can write this. Why? To communicate communicate your ideas to others through various mediums. So like through paper, through computer, hell, even telegraph, I bet. But yeah, so that's our why. Now, how will we do this? How will we communicate these ideas through various mediums? Well, by drawing, by CADing or 3D modeling, or through reports. We will not be detailing on how we are going to be doing reports, as it could be different throughout your course. So that's just that. So, and how will we do this, right? Well, we're going to be learning so we're just going to be learning some basic design sketches, general CAD general CAD uh, some general CAD instructions, or some introductions. And also some more advanced CADing techniques. So this is the general idea of why engineers are being taught this course. So in order to put our designs or our ideas on some medium, whether through computer, through on paper, or some like any other medium, right? The way we do this is that we are going to be drawing or 3D modeling or CADing, and then also through reports. Now, for what we can do, like basic design sketches, some general CAD introduction, as well as some advanced CAD techniques that we'll be going through, such as tolerances. Um, so yeah, and so today we are also going to be going through some basic sketching instructions. Okay, all right, that's funky. Oh, that's weird. Hopefully that doesn't cause a problem. It does cause a problem. Give me a second. Something is not right here. Why won't you change color? Okay, that's weird. There we go. Just hold on. Come on. There we go. Like that. Okay. All right, so now we are going to be going over basic sketching techniques. So this course is actually very heavy on drawing. So if you do have an artistic background, you will have an advantage. But for those that don't, that's totally understandable. Not everyone can be creative or as artistic as everyone. So we'll just start, okay? So so I'm gonna start off with some basic art techniques, okay? So when it comes to just drawing in general, you don't have to think that everything is just a bunch of lines and curves. Okay? It's all basic shapes, right? So basically what I'm trying to say here is that every object, every shape, every drawing that you have seen, whether it's the Mona Lisa or some kind of blueprint for a big gigantic mega mall or something like that, are all composed of a bunch of various shapes. A circle, some kind of rectangle or other polygons, like a rectangle and a triangle, and also just a bunch of lines. And I would like to say that curves can also end up being some various lines, like so. But it's up to your interpretation. So basically, all drawings are just composed of circles, rectangles, triangles, and lines and curves. That was a bit arbitrary for what I said like 5 seconds ago, but like that's basically it. There's no like complicated thing. You just got to remember that everything is on basic shapes, okay? But now you probably might be thinking to yourself, okay, but that's only 2D. That's only in 2D spaces. What about 3D? I'll show you how we can draw in 3D spaces. Okay? So say like we have a cube, right? So we have this kind of cube, like a little square like this, right? And so you're trying to draw a 3D shape. What you want to do, like adding depth is the hard part. So you have a basic shape, and what you want to do is actually just draw like a little line up in the corner right here. Then right here, like that. Then you could draw another line right here. You got to make sure they're parallel. So like that, another on the corner. And then you could draw a top line right here. Make sure it's flat. It's not the greatest, but you get the point I'm trying to communicate, right? Then we have another point here. Then like another point here. And then you want to draw a flat line down. Then you want to draw like a flat line down. So just click out of that. Draw a flat line down like so. And then one more right here. And boom, there's your 3D shape. Now actually this is what's known as an oblique shape. Basically, an oblique shape is that you have a shape where the visual angles are at 90 degrees or perfectly perpendicular. So like for example, right? This rectangle or this face is completely flat against your face or some kind of paper, right? And so this is your oblique shape. Now there's another shape now there's another way to draw shapes, which you probably might know. So when you're drawing a cube, right? Most of the time you're going to be looking at cubes when you're looking at the corner. Now, how are you going to do that? Well, when you're looking at a 3D object through a 2D plane, it's not it's not going to look like a square anymore when you start turning it. It's going to look like a diamond. So I can just draw a simple diamond, right? Well, okay. So in this case, a diamond is like on top. Okay? That's going to be our top of our shape. And then you're going to draw 2 lines down from each corner right here. And then you're going to draw your flat shapes like so. And boom, that is your like That is like your general like drawing when you're looking at a shape from a corner. Now this is our other type of shape. This is our isometric shape. Isometric shapes are basically any all these three angles that you see right here, like right here and right here, they all comprise of each other and they all combine into 120 degrees. So here you can see that it's kind of like 60 degrees. Over here is 60 degrees. And then if you want to be a little bit more generic, you can draw like the inside of the shape. So like kind of like this. Bing 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 bing. Kind of like this. So you can draw the inside volume. You can also do it here, but like, you sometimes don't have to. Right? So oblique shape, you can see oblique shape, flat surface, isometric shape, corner. That's basically our basic sketching techniques. Now for drawing circles, um, now I am on a computer, so like, this might be a bit arbitrary to what I'm saying. However, for some of you who like to draw on paper, like me, you can do this is a technique that I found it was really lovely. So, say you have like the circle, right? You're trying to draw the circle right here, but some like a lot of people do struggle on drawing circles. So how do you do that? Well, you can actually sketch out the top, bottom, left, and right. So let's say we want our top here, we want our bottom here, left, right, and then we have our little center right here. Now you can just draw a curve from here to here, draw another curve here to here, one more curve here to here, and then one last curve here to here. Now that's not the greatest, but you can see that it's relatively a circle. Now you can also like draw your bounds using a square. That's not the greatest example. Hold on. So you can draw your bounds using a square. So like here, you like that, and then you can just draw your arcs from the top all the way to here. Basically, you're drawing from the inside, while when you're just doing the plus sign, you're drawing it from the outside. But overall, it's just gonna end up the same way. So it doesn't really matter how you draw it. It's just techniques that you'll find really familiar. So sometimes, when you're drawing, you have to figure out your coordinate axes. So I'm gonna actually reset this really quickly, like so. And so the way I was taught might be a little different to you, but just hear me out, okay? So like if you remember in mathematics, right? You have your two straight lines here, you have your x and then your y axis. So now you might think that, oh yeah, okay, so y is going to be up and x is going to be left and right. So, but in most cases, actually, you're looking at x and y as a 2D. So like imagine that this x and y grid is flat on a piece of paper or flat on a table, right? So it's gonna end up like in a 3D shape looking something like this. So you have your y here and then your x right here. Your x, psh, I drew another y. Don't do that. Uh, in your x, your x, like this. And then your z-axis is actually going to be the one that's pointing upward. So this is your z. And when it comes to your axis, you can draw it the similar of like essentially the same way that you would draw an isometric and oblique sketch. So I'll just do this really quickly, right? So this shall be our isometric, or this shall be our oblique sketch, our oblique first. So here, and then no, that, and then another one here. Like so, and then have another line drawn over here. Oh wait, no, I should probably just do it with a regular line tool in this corner from the origin over here. So, and then we can label this so we can label these as your, this shall be your, this shall be your Z, this shall be your Y, and this shall be your X. So this is how you draw an oblique coordinate axis. Now for isometric, it's almost the same thing, right? So you got to remember. So in this case, Z and X are perfectly perpendicular, but now we have to make them. Angled a little bit. So like you can like use like a diamond or a triangle, whatnot, right? In my case, I would much rather use a triangle, but you know, it all depends on the person, right? So we'll have our top line right here, and then another line right here, then another line right here. And so this will be our Y, this will be our Z, and this shall be our X. And this is our isometric coordinate axes. So you can see, again, it runs on the same principle as your oblique and isometric sketches, right? You can see your oblique, you can see one is like 90 degrees. Isometric is 120 degrees from Y to X, so you can see that right there is not perfectly perpendicular, nor is it particularly flat. It's kind of in between, right? So like for an isometric sketch, you could take a 45. It's basically like taking a 90 degrees, and then you could take a 45, and then that's basically it. You just sketch that out in the middle, and then that's your isometric sketch. Now, in most cases, you do have to rotate your shape. So I'm going to reset the board, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, so say we have a cube, right? Just a regular isometric looking cube. So bang. Or actually, not, okay. Let's not do a cube. That's not going to help a lot. Let's just say we have some kind of 3D triangle, right? So I'm just going to, another one over here, then one more right here, kind of like that. No, right here. Yeah, that's good. And then another one right here, and then right here, and then one more right here. Okay, so say we have this little wedge piece here, right? And I'm just gonna draw our coordinate axis because when you're rotating an object on a coordinate axis, this is gonna help a lot. You want to draw your coordinate axis when you are doing whatever. So actually, no, that's not good. Right here, okay. So let's just say that this is your y-axis, your x-axis, and your z-axis. Now it may be different depending on the textbook or how your professor labels it. So how you would rotate the shape is kind of weird. So you want to physically you want to imagine how this shape is going to rotate. You can use it like on your fingers or like another object. Or what I like to do is that you could actually build this like a simple shape in Legos, and then you just rotate it. And that's basically how it's done. So for an example, right? Let's rotate this. Let's rotate this shape 90 degrees from the x-axis. So if we rotate the shape, then the resultant shape is going to end up looking something like this. So that's our rotated shape if we were to land it 90 degrees. And just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to draw the right angle because yes, yeah. So you can see that's the flat surface and the hypotenuse is right there. It's not the greatest, but you get it, right? It's basically like that. So now, So now, what if we decide to rotate this on the z-axis? Like, we try to rotate it clockwise, right? Rotate it via counterclockwise. So then the shape is going to end up looking something like this. It's going to look something like this, right? And then here is our right angle, and here is our right angle. I'm only rotating this 90 degrees, okay? It will be different, but yeah. So that's our shape right there. Now, what if we rotate this 90 degrees from the y-axis? Well, it will end up looking kind of similar, but now you're looking at the opposite end of this shape. So let me just draw this really fast. So it's just going to end up looking mirrored. So here, and here, and here. Oh wait, hold on. Give me a second. Right here, right? We're rotating. No, let's not rotate it. Let's rotate it this way, clockwise 90 degrees. So it will look something like this. Like that. So it will just look mirrored, right? Now it will be hard to it will be hard to like kind of visualize it, especially with more extreme shapes. But just have like you gotta be able to visualize what the shape is gonna look like if you're rotated at some degrees. It's usually the best way to do it is actually have like a pencil or something like the stylus that I have on my hand right here. You could rotate it in multiple axes, so you could like kind of visualize what the shape is gonna look like based on the reference of your like pen or your card or your pencil or whatnot. Okay. All right, so that's some basic sketching techniques when it comes to rotating. So yeah. So now we can move on to cross sections. Just gonna black that out. And let's do cross sections. Okay. Oh. Sections. Okay, so what are cross sections? Okay, so let's imagine that we have some kind of can, right? We have a can right here, and then I'll just draw the bottom curve like so. And say we have a hole, right? We say we have a hole. And how will we be able to see the inside of this little can? Basically, you want to take a reference plane, or just like a reference plane is just basically how you're cutting the shape, right? So like you can like use like a knife or some other cutting object and slice the object in and just slice the object where you want to be cut. So let's just say that we are cutting the shape right here. Right here, right? So that's our cutting. Oh, oops, that's not straight. So you're going to be cutting like somewhere like here. So how is this going to look like? Well, you want to imagine what the inside of the shape is going to look like. So for like this result, right? It's going to look like a rectangle when you look at it, when you look like the cut object right in front of you. So it's going to look like something like this. Because you could see that because you could see like the walls right here and then your holes right here. But when it comes to cross sections, you actually want to let the people seeing this know that, okay, so where's the hole and where is the solid shape. So you can do so you can actually do something like this. You can do some hatch marks right here. So that's the solid shape of where it's cutting. And then the hole is just going to be left out like this. Right here. So now let's back up here and say, okay, so now what if we decide to cut it What if we decide to cut it like perpendicularly, right? So let's just say like we're cutting right about here. So here and then give another one here and another one here. Right? So now that we're cutting perpendicularly through the shape. So how is this going to look? So how is this going to look? Well, as you can see from the front of the shape, you can clearly see that it's a circle. So the cross section here will just be a circle with a hole in the middle. That's it. That's for the cross section if you're cutting it perpendicularly. Now what happens if you're trying to cut this thing at an angle? Now when you're cutting from an angle, it's actually a little bit more complicated. So let's just say like here and then like you're cutting it from like here, right? Now this one's a little bit more complicated because you're cutting at an angle. But now again, you have to visualize how it's being cut here. So when you're looking at this cut shape from perpendicularly, you can see like when it's cut right here, you can see that it's actually going to end up being like somewhat of an oval shape, the way it's being cut. So then the resulting cross section will end up looking like this. And that is your cross section. And I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah. Okay. That is the first video in graphics and design for basic introduction. Today we went over some basic sketching techniques, rotation, and cross sections. And next time we'll be going over let's see. Hmm, we're going to be going over solid modeling next. So basically some basic introductions on how to do some 3D modeling on any CAD software. So I hope you can join me next time on doing that. And I think that'll be it for now. Thank you so much for watching.